So, as you know, this week I officially said that Brexit is over. Now, why did I say that? Well, the new UK safety mark was going to replace the European safety mark, a gold standard recognized internationally. And we were somehow going to challenge that. That's what the Brexiteers said, that this new UK mark was going to be the new gold standard. It will challenge the European one. This will break their hold. We will become a regulatory superpower. But the ironic thing was the UK and the EU mark were exactly the same. Because why? The UK daren't even lower its safety marks or any type of regulations. It daren't even raise them, because that would upset the Brexiteers, because as we've always said, they're complete gung-ho for deregulations. And this was tried to be very, very sneakily sort of, put out there. It was put out after, of course, the MPs have gone on break. So there are no Brexiteers in Parliament calling on Rishi Sunak. There's no committees or anything that they have to go to. But some Brexiteers have already been quite vocal in this and talking about how this is a betrayal of Brexit. But as I said, us keeping this mark just reflects the sheer incompetence of the Brexiteers, the complete omnishambles that Brexit is and has become. And it just represents another reason why we should just rejoin. But we're not talking about that today. I want to talk about the business side of this. And Polly, let me get her name right now. Polly Toynbee, in her column in The Guardian, has had an interview with a manufacturer. And you have to imagine this. What if you've been a UK manufacturer who was told by the UK government that this safety mark was coming, that you had to use this new UK safety mark, that you had to get all your products registered on this UK safety mark, that you had to prepare any potential customers or anything like this? Just how much has it cost your business if you have been preparing for this, only for then the government to come out in what is a monumental, colossal U-turn? Because that's really what it is. This is why I've said at this point, Brexit is over at this point. If we are going to keep this mark indefinitely, then what was the point of Brexit? But what has it cost businesses? And this is just one business in particular. I would not be surprised if this is the norm of what has happened to these businesses. So we're going to go and read this sort of small selection where she's the guy from this business is talking about what it has cost his business. Not only that, but also the amount of customers he has lost. And he has lost a significant amount of business, which I want to remind you, every single time we've covered a business on this channel with the consequences of Brexit, it has been a monumental loss in business. Monumental. Even though he has tried to get into other markets, getting into other markets is incredibly hard and just as complicated. And this is one of the things that I haven't really looked into yet, but companies that have tried to go into other markets, this is another interesting situation of where they've been made it harder to trade with the EU, so they've lost a ton of customers, lost a ton of opportunities to do business in the Europe. But then, as well, the Brexiteers said, just go do business elsewhere, right? Well, businesses have, but it has not come close, as you will see in a moment, come anywhere close to regaining the loss of business they have lost from being locked out of the EU. So, before we go diving into this piece just quickly, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a notification link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can all buy me coffee. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club down below as well. So, let's just go quickly dive into this piece here. So here it is. So, I have talked regularly since the referendum to the managing director of Satora, which makes industrial safety valves in Bristol. Varga, a Cambridge engineering PhD, tried in vain with others to warn the government what creating a separate UK product safety mark would do. The referendum result caused an immediate 10% loss of business, saying that some customers instantly decided that it was too much trouble trading with the UK and switched to EU suppliers. And we have said that many times before. Why do business with someone in the UK where it's twice the amount of paperwork, twice the amount of trouble and hassle that you've got to do when you've got the rest of the EU to potentially do business with someone in? It's not rocket science of what EU companies were going to do. And that will be costing UK businesses millions of pounds. And any UK company, because remember, the EU is still our largest market. If you're a UK company and you want to do business in the EU, you are instantly so much more uncompetitive compared to any other, EU company. And it would be interesting to see, or at least talk with businesses who have seen that, of what it was like previously versus what it's like now, trying to win contracts with EU customers. Because I guarantee you, it is twice the hard sell that they used to previously have to do. I guarantee you that. But back to it. So he says that he has to obey the EU rules of origin and is obliged to provide the provenance of every raw material and component for each 30,000 different configurations of his products. Again, just imagine the amount of paperwork. But he says it's tripled our admin workload and it has required horrendous new IT systems, and delays to his just-in-time customers are anathema. They gave us 3 chances, and late 3 times and you're out. And we've said it before, just-in-time delivery, it's destroyed that model. It's completely destroyed this model of manufacturing, which, bear in mind, every single manufacturer had been going towards. That the just-in-time delivery system was the way that manufacturers were going to, because it was far easier and better for them to do just-in-time delivery systems to say, okay, we need to have this amount of product made this day, so we need this amount of deliveries done on this day to make those products. It's far cheaper for them to do that than to have massive warehouses, which will again cost them space, cost them money, than to have a just-in-time delivery system. And that is the way manufacturing has been going. Not to have massive warehouses anymore, but to have just-in-time delivery systems. And as you said there, late 3 times and you're out. That could be a colossal loss of business. But Varg even found the emotional shock of Brexit deeply upsetting at the time, saying that our EU customers were our friends, and there was this sudden chill after 2016. My staff were upset when old customers said, "You bloody Brits, you're ruining everything." His father, who even founded the company, used to recall the joy of joining Europe in 1972, once the CE came into effect, saying that overnight there was once this gold standard for every product exported to the European continent, instead of a plethora of kite marks. And this is where it gets even worse. Because as I said at the beginning, what if you were a business who had been preparing for this? What happens to you? Well, this is what happens. So, um, with the announcement of the Financial Times splashing this week that businesses breathed a sigh of relief after the post Brexit safety mark is ditched. But what a bitter sigh, says Varga. This sudden U-turn only became inevitable because the UK did not have the capacity to issue the UKCA marks. And Vega's products are still waiting for a new product safety mark after a year, saying the inspectors were overwhelmed. And worse, his suppliers in the EU could not get the UKCA marks registered either. They're stuck in a backlog, with Britain demanding that they be checked by a UK domiciled body. Now he has to tell his suppliers and customers they needn't have bothered. And it has cost Varga tens of thousands of pounds just to provide the right records for his products. And Brexit has cost him £4 million in turnover because of lost EU trade. He has been trying to build up new trade worth £400,000 by reaching other markets. That he said the EU was and is our biggest market, but UK businesses have become persona non grata amongst many of their other potential EU customers. And he yearns for the return to at least the customs union, which would remove all import and export restrictions. And that's what businesses want. They really want a return to that. They want to go back. And remember, the whole reason we joined or ended up joining in the EU in the first place, or initially what was to become the EU, was because businesses were losing out. What was it? Not Harold Macmillan, who was the Conservative Prime Minister, I can't remember his name now, described the screeching of EU golf of not EU golf carts of golf carts when he was on the golf course, because he was an avid golfer. He used to like go golfing, but he'd hear the screeching of the pedals when businessmen would see him, and they'd run up to him and say, we cannot afford not to be part of the European Economic Community as it was at the time. And it's going to be the same message that businesses have to start saying as one, saying, hey, we cannot afford not to be part of the EU. And that's going to become deafening, because that's what it became. And that's what ended up with us having to join. We've said it before. You cannot just start trading with other people because they are in farther away markets. Doesn't matter that we're part of the Pacific Partnership, that we've got this trade deal with Australia and New Zealand that are awful, especially for farmers. And who knows what else is in there, but I'm sure we'll find out. They are going to start shouting from the rooftops sooner or later of the damage that needs to be undone. And that, we need to face facts and reality and at least rejoin the customs union, rejoin the single market, and then eventually rejoin the EU. That is the inevitable path that we are back on. And it will be the next parliament when we will actually start, I believe, to have proper conversations about the cost of Brexit, what it is doing to the economy, and what we can do to fix it. And of course, the solutions to fix it are, of course, rejoining a lot of those institutions and things that we've left. And this is not going to make the Brexiteers very happy, but this is because they pushed for this really hard Brexit. And that was not what they were selling back in 2016. Well, they were pushing, even again, as Daniel Hannan, I love to obviously quote this, because again, Daniel Hannan was the brain of Brexit. Only a fool would leave the single market and customs union. No one's talking about leaving that. And yet, what did we get? We got an incredibly harsh Brexit because these Brexiteers, these hard Brexiteers, took over, took control, and said, we are going for the hardest possible Brexit. But that was not what people voted for in 2016. So we'll see. But it's, as always, we said, it's just a matter of time. And yet again, another company suffering from what is essentially another Brexit fiasco. And it's another complete nightmare. I dread to think, that is a multi-million pound company that's able to do this. What if you were a small SME that was in a similar situation? Like, what if you were a small SME who's maybe not as big as them, but you were supplying, safety valves? Maybe you didn't have the same, product line. I think they said they have what, 30,000 different combinations of products. What if you only had, like, I don't know, let's say an SME, 50, I don't know. I'm just guessing here. You might have more. Who knows? Or even another SME with these safety marks. I dread to think of the cost of what it could have cost some of these small SMEs, the amount of money they might have had to try and put in to prepare for this UK safety mark. And the government's quietly come out and said, no, we're just going to indefinitely continue using the EU one. It'll come out sooner or later because it always does. All these Brexit stories, sooner or later, they come out. And we'll get it sooner or later. We'll get what happened to like a small SME, small manufacturing SME who'd been preparing for over a year for this new supposed great new UK safety mark, only to be told, oh, actually, no, we're going to quietly drop that. And yeah, you can continue to use the EU one. I really do dread to think the amount of money that some small SMEs have invested into trying to be ready for the safety mark, only for the government to completely U-turn on this. Just the amount of money that it has cost them. And I have to say, could they sue the government? Could they sue the government for this? I don't know. I'm not a legal expert when it comes to this. But this would be interesting. This would be interesting to see a small SME who has been preparing for this, told by the government, you need to prepare for this, only for them to ditch it at the last second. It's cost them millions of pounds in preparation. Could we see a company sue the UK government over these Brexit preparations, over costing them money? I don't know. I'm not a legal expert, but I don't know if a company could even do that. But we'll see. We'll see if that happens, but I'd be kind of shocked to see the potentiality of that happening. But hey, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But this is just yet another headache for businesses. That the same thing has happened once again. Prepare for Brexit, get ready for Brexit, and then massive climb down. But this, keeping the EU safety mark, is the biggest climb down of all, because it is an acknowledgement, certainly from this Rishi Sunak government, that I know you want us to deregulate, and they talk about deregulating all the time to some of the Conservatives, especially the hard Brexiteers. But with this, it's a sign that Rishi Sunak and certainly Kimi Badnoch have said, we're not going to deregulate. So I've said this before, will Kimi Badnoch get replaced in a potential upcoming cabinet reshuffle, potentially in September or potentially over the summer? That might very well happen, but we'll see. So, as always, until then, please do join us next time. And of course, as always, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.